Hello viewers, thank you once again for tuning on. I'm your host, Mr. Spotter Fred. We want to continue doing what we like doing most. Friends, we are doing advanced financial management. Have you noticed that as we do it, it becomes better and better, right? So we have said that we want to continue doing what we like doing most. That's advanced financial management. Now, believe you me, you have noticed that in the previous sessions, we have been talking about mergers and acquisition. That makes it one of the elements that we'll want to look at again. We want to go further and further and look at more examples. Now, in the previous sessions, we introduced mergers and acquisition, right? We introduced is a continuation of mergers and acquisition. So we don't want to go into details because we introduced and we talked about what a merger is, what an acquisition is, what are the advantages or benefits of mergers and acquisition, what are the hostile takeovers, and what are the strategies or tactics of avoiding, defense tactics of avoiding a hostile takeover. So we talked about that. What we were to do more examples in is the valuation of merger and acquisition. So we did one example last time, and we want to continue with another example this time round. So we are talking about the valuation of mergers and acquisition. The valuation of mergers and acquisition. In the valuation of mergers and acquisition, we notice that we be required to compute the post-acquisition earnings per share. We say that this one you take into account the combined earnings. The combined earnings, you divide it by the number of shares in the predator company, number of shares in the predator company, plus the number of new shares to acquire the target. So that's what we're going to do. Post-acquisition earnings per share, we take the combined earnings, we divide it by the number of shares, that is the number of shares of the predator, and the number of shares to acquire the target. And remember, the number of shares will be equal to, you take the market value of shares, you divide it by the market price per share. Or you take the earnings, the total earnings, you divide by the earnings per share. Simple. Then earnings is straightforward. Then we move on to number of shares to acquire the target. We said you take the exchange ratio, you multiply by the number of shares in the target. Then how do you calculate the exchange ratio? This exchange ratio, we said there is the diluting exchange ratio. Let me call it diluting exchange ratio. You simply take into the offer price by the predator over the market price per share of the predator. Then we also have non-diluting exchange ratio. Then we talk about the non-diluting offer price, which is simply the price and ratio of predator multiplied by the earnings per share of target, that is, then you divide it by the market price per share of the predator. We also looked at the diluting the exchange ratio acceptable. We talked about the exchange ratio acceptable by target by target shareholders. We said you take the market, you get the market price per share of target. You multiply the number of shares in the predator. Then you divide it by the offer price, minus the market value of target shareholders. So that's exactly what we must have said. And as well, we also talked about the premium. How do you calculate the premium on issue? The offer price, you subtract the market price per share of the target so that we know the premium. So this is just a recap of what we did last time. I may not go into details, but we will want to look at a question, and maybe at that point we'll be able to remind some more other items. So we want to look at an illustration 2. Illustration 2. Illustration 2, we had done illustration 1 last time, and this illustration 2 is actually a question that must have been done in June 2007. Question 5 is a question that must have been examined in June 2007, question 5. Now, we read it there. We say, the following information related to Alpha Limited and Beta Limited as of December 31st, 2006. Average annual sales. We have the average annual net income. We have the earnings per share. We have the market price per share. Alpha Limited intends to acquire Beta Limited, although through a share exchange. The number of issued ordinary shares for Alpha Limited and Beta Limited were 25 million and 4 million respectively. As of 31st December 2006, required 1. The maximum share exchange ratio that Alpha Limited should offer to the shareholder of Beta Limited without diluting the earnings per share of Alpha Limited. Roman 2, the premium that the shareholders of Beta Limited will receive using the share exchange ratio in A Roman 1 above. So that is question illustration 2. I will go back to the required. Realize that Roman 1 is the maximum share exchange ratio that Alpha Limited should offer to the shareholder of Beta Limited without diluting the earnings per share. In other words, Roman 1 is the non-diluting exchange ratio. That's what we need to calculate, Roman 1. Roman 2, the premium that the shareholders of Beta Limited will receive using the share exchange ratio in A Roman 1 above. So the premium, that's what we're going to answer. Now, from the beginning, they have given us the annual sales, which may not help us. They have also given us the average annual net income. That will help us because we may use that to determine the post-acquisition earnings per share, and which we are not even required to do. The earnings per share is given, which we may use to compute the non-diluting exchange ratio. Market price per share is given. Then we have also been given the exchange ratio that they are expecting to acquire Beta through a share exchange. The number of issued ordinary shares for Alpha Limited and Beta Limited were 25 million and 4 million respectively as of 31st December. So they have given us the number of shares that were in issue. So without wasting time, Roman 1, we are computing the maximum exchange ratio, that will not dilute the earnings per share of Alpha. So in other words, they're asking the non-diluting exchange ratio. Non-diluting exchange ratio would be, I'm saying, we take non-diluting offer price, you divide it by the market price per share of the predator, which the market price per share we have it as 40. But what is the non-diluting? How do we calculate the non-diluting offer price? Is the price earning ratio of the predator. You multiply the earnings per share of the target. So let's confirm how do we go about it. Our price and ratio of the predator is not given. We can also determine the price and ratio. The price and ratio will be you take the market price per share over the earnings per share, or the market value of shares over earnings, over total earnings. So we can compute the price and ratio of alpha. The price and ratio of alpha is simply 40 divided by 3. So we take our calculator. Then now I take my calculator, 40 divided by 3. We have 13.33 times. That's the price and ratio. Now we can go back and now say our non-diluting offer price will be 13.33. I multiply by the earnings per share. So let me just compute directly the non-diluting exchange ratio. It will be the non-diluting offer price, which is the price and ratio of the predator, 13.33. I can even decide to just put 40 over 3. Then I multiply that by the earnings per share. Our earnings per share of the target is 2. We multiply by 2. Then we divide it by the market price per share of the predator, which is 40. So what will be the non-diluting exchange ratio? So I'll come and say, I multiply that by 2, I divide by 40. So we are getting 0.67. This is 0.67. That is our non-diluting exchange ratio. Is our non-diluting exchange ratio, and that's exactly what we were required to do. That's what we were required to do. Fine. On that note, now we continue to the next question. In our next question, Roman 2, in Roman 2, we were required to compute the premium that the shareholders of Beta will receive using the share exchange ratio in A Roman 1 above. So what is the premium? The premium, if we recall, our premium is simply the offer price minus the market price per share of the target. And the offer price we have computed, is 13.13, the non-diluting offer price. We can now take a calculator, say it is 40 divided by 3 times 2. That is 2.6. It is 40 divided by 3 times 2. That is 26.67. 26.67. That is the non-diluting offer price. Then we subtract that the market price per share of the target, and the market price per share of the target is 19. It's 19. So what is our offer price? Offer price, I subtract the 19. So we have 7.6.67. That's the offer price per share. Now, we were not asked other items, but we can do them for revision purposes, just for revision purposes. Post-acquisition earnings per share. We take the combined earnings. We divide that by number of ordinary shares in the predator plus number of new shares to acquire target. So the combined earnings, we have it 75 million and 8 million. That's okay. Number of shares of the Predator, we have it. For Alpha was 25 million. So what would be the number of new shares to acquire the target? So we can say 75 million plus 8 million. Then we divide it by the number of shares of the Predator we were given, 25 million, plus the number of new shares to acquire the target. We take the exchange ratio that we have computed, which is 0.6. 0.67. I multiply the number of shares in the target, which is 4 million. 4 million. Then what will be our post-acquisition earnings per share? Come and say there is 75 plus 8. We have 83 divided by, then we have 25 million plus, then we have 0.67, 0.67 multiplied by 4 million. Right. So that I'm getting 2 shillings, 2.9999. This is like 3. So as you have noticed is that we have simply proved if you're going to use the non-diluting exchange ratio 0.67, the post-acquisition earnings per share will remain 3, just like before. Before acquisition of Beta, the earnings per share is 3 for Alpha. Then even after acquisition, it's going to be 3. That is simply, we have proved that. So we are through with this question. We want to look for another illustration. Now our next question, as we have just said, is the illustration 3. This was illustration 2, illustration 3. That is a question that I can see is a question that must have been done in December 2007. So these are very common. It was done in June 2007 and then December. We'll want to do even the most recent questions as much as possible. So we have this question saying Kubwa Limited is considering acquiring Dogo Limited through a share exchange under the terms of acquisition. Kubwa Limited will offer one of its shares in exchange for every 2 shares in Dogo Limited. The summarized financial information relating to the 2 companies for the year ending 30th November 2007 are as shown below. We have the profit after tax, we have the number of shares, we have the earnings per share, we have the market price per share, we have the price-earning ratio. Required: the earnings per share of the combined company after the merger. 2. If the share price-earning ratio after the merger falls to 12, what will be the premium received by the shareholders of Dogo Limited using the combined company's new share price? 3. The share price earnings ratio after the merger falls to 12. Will the merger be beneficial to the shareholders of Kubwa Limited? Just for your answer. So that is what we are required to do. Now, from the required point, Roman 1, the earnings per share of the company, of the combined company after the merger. In other words, Roman 1, they're asking for post-acquisition earnings per share. Roman 2, if the share price earning ratio after the merger falls to 12, what will be the premium received by the shareholders of Dogo Limited using the combined company's new share price? Now, in this case, in other words, it means that we are going to reduce, we are going to have a price earning ratio of 12, and we can easily use that 12 to determine the market price per share. Then, Roman 3, the share price ratio after the merger falls to 12, will the merger be beneficial? Now, if the price earning ratio falls, then definitely the market price per share will fall. But that does not mean that the merger will not be beneficial. We have what referred to synergy, an additional benefit or advantage. Let's look at this question. We have been told from the beginning we have been told that Kubwa Limited is considering acquiring Dogo. That means that Kubwa is the predator, while Dogo is the target. Then, under the terms of acquisition, Kubwa Limited will offer one of its shares in exchange for every 2 shares. So we will be given the exchange ratio. That is 1 for every 2. That's 1/2 or 0.5. the summarized financial information is given. So profit after tax will help us to compute the combined earnings, to use the combined earnings and then get the post-acquisition earnings. Then we have the number of shares that will help us, the earnings per share, the market price per share, the price-earning ratio. They are all important. We have also been given the exchange ratio. So without wasting time, let's look at the required one, the combined post-acquisition earnings per share. The combined post-acquisition earnings per share. So this is a question that was examined in December. So December 2007 was a question 4. This is our illustration 3. So Roman 1, the post-acquisition earnings per share. So recall, what did we say? That our post-acquisition earnings per share will be the combined earnings then you divide it by the number of shares. Plus the number of new shares to acquire target. So what will we have here? The combined earnings will be 150 million plus 30 million. What is the number of shares in the predator? The number of shares in the predator, they have given us 25 million. The number of shares to be issued in order to acquire the target, we are going to take the exchange ratio. All right, the exchange ratio is given as 1/2. 1/2, that's the exchange ratio. You multiply by the number of shares in the target, which is 8 million. So what would that come to? I take my calculator and say 150 plus 30, that's 180. I divide it by 25 million plus 0.5 multiplied by 8 million. Then that is going to be 6.20. Let me say 6.21. That will be shillings. Shillings per share. That is our post-acquisition earnings immediately after acquisition. Then we have also been told to answer, Roman 2, that if the share price and ratio after the merger falls to 12, what will be the premium received by the shareholders of Ndogo Limited using the combined company's new share price? What will be the premium? What is going to be the premium? Roman 2, they are asking for the premium. Premium if price earning ratio is 12. If the price earning ratio is 12 times, know very well that to compute the premium, we simply need the offer price. We need the offer price. We subtract the market price per share of the target. If the price earning ratio, if after the merger falls to 12 times, what will be the premium received by the shareholders of Ndogo Limited using the combined company's new share price? That is very interesting. What is our share price? What is our share price? What is our market price? Our market price, they are saying we use the post-acquisition market price. Market price, it will be the price and ratio, the post-acquisition price and ratio we multiply that by the post-acquisition earnings per share. And that is simply 12 times. The post-acquisition is 6.21. What would that be? So that we have the post-acquisition of, we multiply that by 12. So we have shillings 74.48. Remember, we are using the price, the new price after acquisition. Don't forget that. Then now we are going to calculate the offer price. If you remember the exchange ratio, we'll take the offer price. We were not given the offer price. You divide by the market price per share of the predator. If you're using this, then we have the exchange ratio. Exchange ratio is a half. The market price per share is 74.48. Then what will be this offer price? So our offer price is simply going to be a half by 74.48. So what do we have? Then we multiply by a half, that is 37. So we have 37.24. So what is the premium? What is our premium? Our premium will be now 37.24. We subtract the market price per share of the target. The market price per share of the target, which we must have been given, we were given a figure of 33.75. That's exactly what we're given. So let's compute that premium. Our premium now will come to that 3.75, will come to 3.49. 3.49, that's what we are going to have as our premium. So we have answered Roman 2. We'll want to answer Roman 3. In Roman 3, we were required, this is Roman 3. Roman 3, we were required to calculate if the share price earning ratio after the merger falls to 12. Will the merger be beneficial to the shareholders of Kubwa Limited? Justify your answer. Yes, Roman 3. So I'll move to the next level. Roman 3, if the price earning ratio falls, when the price earning ratio falls, even the market price per share will fall. Yes. So that is Roman 3, whether the merger will be beneficial after the fall of price earnings ratio. After the fall, now market price per share before merger, was how much? Was shilling 75. No, it's shillings 40, not 75. Shillings 40 per share. But the market price per share after merger is going to be shillings. Now before the merger was 78 shillings per share. Then the market price per share after the merger was shillings, the one we have computed, 74.48. You see, there is a decrease. There is a decrease in market price per share of how much? A decrease of something to do with the 3. Let me have my calculator and say this is 78 minus 74.48. So we have 3.52. Yeah, there is a decrease in market price per share. But still, the fact that there is a decrease, the merger will be beneficial due to synergy. The merger will still be beneficial due to the additional due to the benefits of synergy. Benefits of synergy. That there is one more addition. Remember, synergy is that 1 plus 1 is equals to 3. 2 plus 2 is equals to 5. 3 plus 3 is equals to 7. That there is an additional advantage that we are going to have in when companies merge or acquire another, other than the market price and all that, but there is an additional advantage. So that's why we are saying that the fact that the market price per share will fall from 78 to 74, still the merger will be beneficial because of synergy. Now, friends, we have come to the end of this session. At least this session, we have done 2 illustrations. That's illustration 2 and illustration 3. We'll still want to do some 2 illustrations so that we can be able to understand this valuation better. Now, until next time, next session, for today, I wish you the best. See you when we won't avoid it. And definitely, it's just the next session when we'll be talking more and more in respect to these mergers and acquisition. Thank you very much.